It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 83, Revelation of the Daleks. Oh, I see.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby? The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
The reverse polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It is quite a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is fighting. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your classic tri-weekly Doctor Who review podcast. Yes, it's going to stay. This is...
Take two.
This is not the first time that Dan and I have sat down to talk about Revelation of the Daleks, but what podcast that isn't on episode number 83? A podcast that has not put 83 hours into a show, hasn't had an episode where they've recorded an entire review of Revelation of the Daleks, only to find out that one
of us was not
recording.
We're not going to say who it was.
Yeah,
but
rather
it wasn't
than
Eric.
I'm not going to say who it was. I don't think it's important to say who it was.
It's not important to say.
But I'm
that
not
was
going to release an episode that's just me talking without Dan saying anything. That would be inappropriate.
That would be weird. That'd be strange.
So,
especially because I was.
We're both tired. We want to remember
God.
what we've said, so I think it's best we just jump into this.
Yes, let's just do that. Yes,
okay. We're going to jump into it.
Starting
So
over.
hit that button.
We're going back in time.
We're going back in
Doing
time.
it again. Ready?
I have conquered the diseases that brought their victims here. In every way, I have complied with the wishes of those who came in anticipation of one day being returned to life.
But never in their worst nightmares did any of them expect to come back as Daleks.
All the resting ones I have used were people of status, ambition. They would understand, especially as I have given them the opportunity to become and the masters of the universe.
With you as their emperor. But what of the lesser intellects? Or will they be left to rot?
You should know me better than that, Doctor. I never waste a valuable commodity. The humanoid form makes an excellent concentrated protein. This part of the galaxy is developing quickly. Famine was one of its major problems.
Okay, this is Revelation of the Daleks.
Oh my God, this is the third time.
This is the third time. A lot of other you guys don't know that the first time we did this when we weren't recording, I kept screwing up the thing, or we were saying, or Dan said something wrong about the year or something. I don't even remember what it was. We did multiple takes, so let's do multiple takes again. This is Revelation of the Daleks. People are going to be like, this is the fastest podcast they ever did. They were pretty much all on speed. This is Revelation of the Daleks. This is the sixth and final serial of season number 22, lucky number 22. This is from 1985. It always feels like we're in 1985 on all of these shows. I think it's like the 1984 of the 1985.
1984 of 1985.
Yes, the 1984 of 1985. Okay, what happens in this, you're asking yourself? You're also wondering, did I accidentally hit the speed button on my podcast? But no, I hit the speed button from my dealer. The Doctor and Perry go to pay their respects to the recently deceased Arthur Stegnos at a space funeral home. It's called Tranquil Rose, thanks for asking. And it's located on the funeral planet of Necros, which is a perfect name, I would say, for a planet of the dead. It's just a coincidence. Meanwhile, Davros, posing as the frozen severed head of Walt Disney, has begun a secret operation of converting the best and brightest into a new race of Daleks, while turning the poor or the ugly into food that he sells back to their living counterparts. All the while, a drunk and Stegnos' daughter break into the funeral home to find her father. Also, there's a space DJ, a handsy funeral director, a timid mouse lady with bad self-esteem, a high-end assassin, and the unclean squire who loves him. And that doesn't even begin to cover the fancy corporate lady and her fast food empire, the Dalek Supremes. I love their work. The security bros, or the president's dead wife. Now, Dan, what did you think of, I will act surprised, but what did you think of Revelation of the Daleks?
Eric, this is one of my favorite stories we've ever watched.
Twist.
Wait, no, that's a twist. I just want to say this is our second time recording our review, and our third time doing that intro, and we still got the name of the place wrong. It's Tranquil Repose.
What did I say? That's because of my autocorrect. Because I put this into the thing, and it says... So it's Tranquil Repose, not Tranquil Rose.
Correcto.
It's TR. Still, the initials are TR, so you won't get lost, because they put TR all over the place.
All over the place. Just so you know where you are. Eric, you'll be surprised to find out that I found this to be a very middle-of-the-road story. And I'm going to enumerate all the reasons, and you will be surprised by each of them. I cannot believe we lost 45 minutes.
It's fine. Let's forget it. People don't know that they want the good stuff.
Okay,
they don't want to know this is second rate.
No, this is really good. It's going to be better this time around.
Stop your face. I didn't say this the last time I recorded, and I should correct it now. This was directed by Graham Harper and written by Eric Saward. So now you can go on.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
As I said, I think this is a very middle-of-the-road story. It's probably one of the Baker stories, the Colin Baker stories I like best, but that's not saying a lot because most of his stories are at the bottom of the heap for me because of him. Overall, I thought the story itself was fairly middle of the road, though there are individual pieces that I liked very much. For instance, I like all of the secondary characters throughout, excluding the main characters of the Dr. Perry and Davros. I really did enjoy, especially the assassin, Orsini, and his manservant / lapdog. I also really enjoyed, the interactions between some of the funeral home workers. They were kind of interesting, at least, even if they weren't great people. We were talking about Jobel, who's the funeral director head, who is just a horrible, disgusting character, but done so well. A very repellent character, portrayed, I think, perfectly. So there are bits and pieces that I enjoyed, but overall, it's a Davros story, and I find his stories to be very much the same story every time. An overly complex plot to lure the Doctor to his death, where he's not going to kill him immediately, instead explain his brilliant plan to him. All the while, there's going to be other Daleks that will revolt against him, especially now the whole schism in the Dalek Empire. And in his quest for power, as he creates more Daleks, it's just the same every single time. I like the performance of the actor, but I don't really think the story is helped by having him at all. And then it's just brought down overall by the interactions between Perry and the Doctor. I just can't stand the portrayal. What they choose to do with Perry just makes me so angry. And she doesn't help herself in this a lot. So that kind of bugs me. And then there's the DJ, who just was one of my least favorite.
Yeah, but see, I like the DJ.
So then
I am the opposite. This isn't the greatest Doctor Who story in the world, but it's one of my favorite. It's one of the better Colin Baker stories, I should say. Although I think there are some in the Trial of the Time Lord. I'm thinking of the one where he went like in the Matrix, maybe, or in there it was like the clowns, or was there like a flashing lights or something? There was some kind of surrealistic. Right. I may be more interested in this one. But for all of the acting and the overall story, I thought in this was cool. I like the idea that they've created a funeral home to put people in cryogenic sleep because they're going to, take their money. And then at the future, when we figure out how to cure these diseases, we're going to, bring you back to life. And that's all a ruse. Mm-hmm. We've even gotten to the point where these diseases that have killed these people have been cured, but they're simply turning them into food if they have no real value, and then selling them back to their relatives, which is kind of dark and twisted and interesting as a concept. Or Davros is secretly turning them into these hybrid Dalek creatures, that he's actually growing Daleks from the heads of the fallen people.
Waste not, want not. Yeah.
But I loved the reveal of that when you find out that's what's happening, when we were following Natasha and the drunk doctor, who, it was cool that they added the thing that he's a drunk and someone calls him a drunk and he gets waterboarded by whiskey at one point, but doesn't have really much of a character. But anyway, when they find that thing and the crystal Dalek appears, and then you see like that gross mutated pile of
head.
Flesh,
yeah.
And then there's an eye in it. It starts talking, and she realizes it's her dad, and she's got to kill her own dad. That was great. I loved that.
I thought that was actually really effective too. Especially, I liked his performance where he's going in and out of like the Dalek voice, the kind of almost not quite Dalek-y voice, and then pleading for him to kill him back and forth. I thought that was actually really effective. You said there was the moment where they kind of reveal or they realize what's going on. Before then, there's even a part where we have the two orderly assistant guys. What are their names? We have... Oh,
are you talking about the security?
Takis and
Lilt.
They're talking about this, that these people have been cryogenically frozen, like you said, in the hopes that one day when the disease that was going to kill them is cured, they can come back to life. And these diseases have long since been cured, but they're being kept there. They're saying they don't actually know it's because of the food thing. They say that, and this is also very interesting to me, that it's because they've been cryogenically frozen for so long, and the whole world can't, or the galaxy
too many
is running out of
people.
food supply. But the people that are still alive are the ones that are in power. And if we brought these people back out of cryogenic sleep, then it would upset the power balance. So there's no reason for the people who aren't.
Right. And they talk about population control too. That there's already too many people. We can't add any more. Because there is a famine or a hunger shortage or a food shortage, which is why they're making so much money selling these, manufactured food substance, which turns out to be people, which eventually becomes hemp at the end, and they live on that commune. And but to get back to the stuff that I liked about it too, I really thought that the camera work and everything in this was excellent. I thought the direction was really good, and while the story wasn't 100% perfect, because there's like a lot of little things that are maybe not so strong, and a lot of the inner relationship stuff between characters, particularly the Doctor and Perry, were not good. I thought Graham Harper's work on this was great, and especially when they first land on the planet and we get to see the creature come out of the lake, and the hand pops up, or there's another shot where people are walking down hallways and the camera just pans down and we see level after level after level. There's just was really sort of neat composition shots and stuff like that I thought was great. Maybe a better story with Graham Harper directing would have been more positive.
So you're saying the part of the directing that you like was really more of the technical side of it? Was the camera shots, the way things were composed?
I would say the composition and the way that they transition between shots and all of that. I would assume that would be the director.
No, I agree. As opposed to, and I think that stuff was probably better executed in terms of the direction than some of the performances, for example. Like I said, overall, I think the performances were actually pretty good. There were some that were just way overacting, scene chewing, and just weird staging that isn't necessarily unique to this, but is in a lot of Doctor Who, where there's the woman, the kind of meek Tassenbecker, clearly in love with Jobel. She's been rebuffed over and over again. I think that a better director may have made that performance better, at least that part of the performance better. She then turns, one of the first scenes we see her, Jobel leaves, and she takes out her anger on Takis and Lilt to go fix everything to get ready before the president shows up for the funeral. And she just does this walking down stage towards the camera and back to them, and then just shouts at them. It just felt so fake, and you can see her on the
I don't mind that stuff as much as you.
It bugs me because there's so many other parts. I think contrasting it to some of the excellent performances, it makes it stand out even more as being subpar. And I think that is obviously the actor's problem, but is a lot in my mind, with the director trying to helping the actors to create a cohesive feel for all the performances, and I felt like that was lacking. It's the other moment that we talked about with her is the moment that she's going to kill Jobel, and it just makes it's ridiculous.
No, it's a long, drawn out, and she's. Well, first we see her with,
him up the
to
stairs.
back up a little bit. Yeah, she's with Davros, and he basically says he's going to give her immortality, aka turn her into a Dalek. And she's got, in order to do this, she has to prove her loyalty to him and kill this creep. Hashtag Me Too. And she says, "I'm going to do it." So you go into that scene. What's that?
That part's great. I think her performance there is actually interesting.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, that's sort of the build-up. So you go into this scene thinking, well, at least I did.
Yeah.
She's still trying to kill him. Like, even though she's saying, "Oh, come with me, you're not safe, blah, blah, blah." I was thinking, oh, this is probably a ruse. She's really going to kill him immediately. But then you find out, no, she really is in love with him. So you get this long, very sort of drawn-out scene where he's berating her and telling her she's garbage and she's so ugly and I can have any woman I want. Why would I be with you? And this is all building in her. And as you're saying, it's building sort of very over the top, and her actions are. And then when she finally goes to do the killing blow, she could have just sidestepped or just said stop or grabbed her hand or done anything to not get killed. I mean, it wasn't quick. It's like, here it is, and then she says a line, and he's just staring at her, like
waiting
a deer in headlights, waiting to die. Then he gets stabbed, and then he mutters to himself, like, I can't believe that happened. It's like we all believed that it happened. And there's two guys that are already there that he says, get away from here, that aren't more than a few feet away when this happens, and don't rush to see what.
Everyone just stopped to watch. I mean, maybe everyone wanted him dead. That's fine. I mean,
but I don't know. I like the directing a lot. I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. Like the play stuff where it feels like she's going to do a soliloquy or she walks to the foreground of the camera and you see through her face that she's considering what she wants to do. I kind of like that stuff.
It feels very soap or played.
Yeah, I like all of the episodes he's pretty much direct. I mean, he did Caves of Androzani before this. That's such a good episode. And then he did a bunch of stuff I know in the new series, too. Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's not unique to this story. I think it's actually less pronounced than in previous ones. I think...
I think that's the time.
It is not unique to him. It is just a style choice that I don't like very much. And when it jumps out... it's usually because it is contrasted in my mind with the other performances that are more naturalistic and strong, that those things tend to bug me more.
I will now jump on your side of the fence, or of the wall, and talk about a part of that I didn't like about the directing.
Yeah.
And that is the whole scene of the Doctor and Perry going over the wall where the Doctor's pocket watch or whatever is broken by Perry. A couple things. Why is this scene in here?
Right.
It's a terrible scene. The only thing it accomplishes is to berate Perry and make her more...
Feel small.
Yeah, feel small and stupid.
Yep.
And it's so poorly executed that you don't even realize what's happening. At first, I'm like, is he mad that she ripped his cloak? Because she's like on his shoulders and stepping on his head, and he's doing that like funny, oh, there's a foot in my face. And then maybe you hear a cracking sound, and you hear off... I said off panel last time. I won't make that mistake again, and I won't point it out. Off screen, you hear her say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't believe it," and then it cuts to the top of the wall, and she's sitting there, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I broke it," and he just
with no idea what
gruffly hands her his cape. And why does he have a cape? I don't know.
He's supposed to wear blue because it's the color.
Yeah, whatever. And then he goes up and basically says, "You're worthless." And people are grabbing Perry every character. The enemies grab Perry and pull her around, and the friends grab Perry and pull her around, including the DJ who's grabbing her before he gets into the Revolution X Aerosmith arcade game and shoots Daleks with the power of rock and roll, which is a thing that happens in this.
It's amazing that it happens in this
story.
Well, let's talk about Perry then, because I may have mentioned this before. I think Perry, as a character, is set up to be... could be a very interesting character. She's smart. She's going to university. Has a science background. She's collecting samples, but she's given no agency and is belittled throughout her entire run. And I think it's really apparent in this from the moment the story begins. It opens with the TARDIS landing on a snowy field right by a stream, and we see Perry step out in a blue outfit, muttering under her breath about complaining about something, walks down to the river, doesn't like her lunch, and litters immediately. So from the outset, I didn't know what they were doing there. And we start off with the Doctor. They made her, whatever the outfit she's wearing, she looks incredibly fat. She just looks huge.
Yeah, and I had also thought, just for a second, I was like, oh, was the actress pregnant at the time that they shot this? And then I was like, well, that's a crappy thing to think. And then I was like, I'm not even going to look it up. I'm sure she's not. And then you know,
well, I noticed
on,
you notice later that
not.
she's inside the facility. She's with the DJ. She has her coat off when I noticed, and they show her full frame, and she has her normal figure. She looks like she always has. So I don't know why they made her look so fat in the beginning, and why the Doctor kept saying things about her being fat, and then she calls him fat, and the whole climbing on top of him to get over the wall, I thought was kind of a play on that, like, oh, she's so heavy, trying to get her over the wall, which it didn't seem to make any sense to me. So that I think set off my expectation for the story. It just kind of set the tone for it for me. So maybe if all that hadn't happened, I may have gone into it with a better frame of mind and enjoyed it more. But that colored it for me, and I really didn't enjoy what they did to Perry. And they do kind of do it throughout the entire. They do
it throughout. I mean, the character of Perry in this era seems to exist only as the butt of jokes, and is someone that is just there to either get rescued or to belittle or whatever. I mean, it's just she and their relation. The Doctor is so unlikable. This Doctor, Colin Baker's Doctor,
yes,
that all of their interpersonal stuff is fighting or bickering, mixed in with like these fake moments of closeness or friendship that doesn't work. Like it doesn't play at all. Like and some other doctors can do that, but this doesn't feel. It just feels like he's not a good dude, and these people don't like him. And if they're as bad as the writers are constantly making him, why are we spending all this time with these people?
Yeah,
like it's just not a good combo.
Yeah, it is particular to this era, so it's not necessarily this story per se that makes that so bad. It is from the beginning emphasized from the very beginning of the story.
Yeah, and one thing to beat up on Perry a little bit more.
Let's do that.
When the Doctor reveals his monument of death,
yes,
you hear her say like, "Oh, is there one for me?" And you know there's nothing for you. Like, why is anyone making Perry a monument? You're just some American person they took off a boat, right?
Right.
I mean,
there's no reason for that. And
also, I don't know if I've already said this in this episode or in the one we recorded. Because if someone says in podcast, they're like, is Eric gone crazy? He already told the story about how Perry doesn't have a monument. Don't remember.
No, I think this was the first time this time around. So we're good. We're good.
Okay, we're fine.
But
wait. One more thing.
Wait, there's more.
There is more. Speaking of Perry, you must have liked the fact, because as a non-fan of Perry,
I'm not a non-fan.
As a non-fan of Perry's accent,
yes,
you must have loved the scene in which the DJ meets Perry for the first time. She says like whatever she says, and he goes, "Is your accent real, or why you have such a bad accent?
No.
Is that
your real
really
accent?
your accent or whatever?"
Yeah,
I thought that was.
So. I thought that was very funny. That was a good nod to like the fact that she is doing an accent. Whether it's a nod to her doing a bad accent, I don't know. But that was I found that pretty amusing. Let's keep talking about Perry some more.
Okay.
So Perry has some moments that just read to me as really poorly executed, where there's supposed to be emotional moments. There's two of them. One, we see, so we mentioned it before, with the cool effect of the mutant hand coming out of the river, and then later we see this mutant come rushing at the Doctor and Perry from the woods. The makeup I thought was really effective. He looked disgusting, and when he's grappling with the Doctor, I actually felt like, ew, don't touch him. Like, it was really effective looking. The Doctor tries to hypnotize the guy. That doesn't work, and they struggle, rolling around to the ground, and Perry decides to intervene and reluctantly clubs him lightly on the back twice, killing the guy. So the point is that Perry's supposed to have this moment of, oh my God, I killed a guy. I can't believe I killed a guy, and he forgave me. And why did he have to be so nice about it? And the doctor's like, well, you had to. And that was it. There was no further moral reckoning with the fact that she murdered someone. It was, and she didn't really seem that upset, other than just saying the words that she was upset.
No, see, I disagree a little bit. I felt like in that scene, she did a good job. You know, the actress did a good job, Nicola Bryant, of saying, "Oh my God, I killed this person. Why'd they have to be so nice? You know, now I feel so bad." And the doctor at that point should have said, he was already dying. His skin is falling apart. He came out of the swamp. Like, he is. You didn't do this, Davros, or we wouldn't.
The great healer did it.
The great healer did it, or whatever.
Yes. I expected that to happen, but you're right. He didn't do that.
Say that. And
he
then,
just kind of let her deal.
To your point, and this is again the script's fault.
Yes.
That is never explored after that scene. That scene ends, and it's as if nothing happened. It's not like she then has to kill somebody, or something happens later, and she recalls the scene, and she grows, and whatever. It's just like that happens, and it's just over. It's just there. It's
Why
just like
bother having it if she's not going to have that sense of reckoning, which I think would have been very interesting. But yes, that's.
But it's fine. Again, it's the doctor being this. This doctor is just not a doctor that has any kind of empathy really for anyone. So it's just that's just the way he's.
So I
written.
said there were two moments. There's that one that I felt kind of fell flat emotionally for me, and that again is the writing and not necessarily the actress. Though I think her portrayal of saying she's upset and not actually appearing upset bugged me, in the same way that it happens the second time when the doctor goes and sees his statue, memorial of himself, gets so close to it that it tips over and falls on him. She thinks he died. She thinks he's got crushed by this giant, massive stone statue, and she barely reacts. Now, maybe she's supposed to be in shock and can't react to it, but one of the things she says is, how am I going to get home? She doesn't know how to fly the TARDIS.
She can't fly the TARDIS.
Like, this
it's weird. They have a weird toxic
relationship
that doesn't really get any better. And then at the remembering her ending, she gets married off to some king on some planet, right? Isn't that how her whole thing? You think she's dead, and then they bring her back, and she's married to someone.
Sure,
I think that's how it happens.
Let's say that happens.
Yeah, remember it's the whole Trial of the Time Lord where she dies. She gets her head shaved, and she's like the end of Buffy, and then she gets killed, but she's not dead, and they bring her back, and they say something like, "Oh, she's married the guy from Flash Gordon."
Because we don't actually see that, we just hear that. That's right. Okay, can we talk about Davros's plan? Because
I was going to say, involved this scene with the monument, like why he built this monument that's out of styrofoam, because it doesn't kill the doctor, and I think he says it's just
very easily throws it off. Yeah,
and then there's blood, as you pointed out, and why? What is this all about?
Right. So you had hypothesized that was just kind of a mind game by Davros, that doctor's going to see this, he's going to think, oh, I'm actually going to die, which he does. That part works. The doctor goes to this thing. I've come into my own future. I'm seeing my death. I'm not going to survive this. That's when Perry goes off and thinks, well, maybe I have one too. But so that makes sense that the Davros is messing with his head in order to get him off his game and do whatever he's going to do to him. Except that when the doctor gets fake crushed by the fake statue, he pops up with fake blood on him that Perry comments on. And the doctor says, no, that too, just like the statue, was part of an elaborate theatrical effect. To what purpose was there fake blood? So Davros expected it to not really crush him? So he expected that this thing would fall on him and that it wouldn't kill him, and that the doctor would be like, oh, so that was just a ploy. But then
was it triggered? Was it triggered? Was it like a booby trap and it was triggered to fall?
It fell out of nowhere, so it must have been. It didn't fall until he got close to it.
But this is the same guy who crafts an animatronic head, his own head, that has a realistic animatronic on a spin thing, so that he could spend.
A cool effect.
I don't know how many years he's been the Great Healer. He's been in the closet. He wakes up in the morning and he's stuck in a closet for maybe years, controlling an animatronic head just in case there's a chance that, and he's never done this before. Like maybe he was like, well, this is how I'm going to prevent from getting stopped. So that if somebody shoots him, he can then wheel himself out and say, "Ha ha, that was a fake animatronic head." But day in and day out, he's stuck in that closet. We don't find out that's a fake thing until like part 2, the end of part 2.
End of part 2.
So the entire time he's just been on his own in the dark, like playing his Game Boy or whatever, and then trying to talk to people through that dumb animatronic head.
So and he fully
it's just so weird.
He expected to get attacked because he says that was meant to draw the assassin's bullet. So he knew that at some point he was going to get attacked. Some years in the future, who knows?
Yeah,
I didn't
who
actually
knows?
until you pointed this out. I didn't realize that that's what was happening. I thought that I'm just dumb, so let's just take that with a grain of salt. That animatronic head that was there was actually Davros until that last scene when he knew the assassin was coming, and then he got his head put back onto a body. But that doesn't make sense.
You know what?
I said, I'm dumb.
Maybe.
It doesn't make sense.
Right, maybe. I don't know who did the surgery, but perhaps, you know.
No, it makes no sense. I'm dumb. But
his plan doesn't
it is
make
just as dumb.
It's always
as
so
him
elaborate. Like there's so many, him and the Master. There's always like all these extra levels of detail that is not. And why does he bring? I mean, I understand he wants to turn the Doctor into a Dalek.
Sure.
But to what end? He talks about just torturing him.
I think that's just to do that. He wants to turn the Doctor.
Like, get your army settled, and then I don't know. I mean, he's got a good amount of these Necros Daleks or whatever.
I mean, what he really just should do is just kill the Doctor with 1,000 Daleks surrounding him. But, I mean, no. Instead, he has to prove how brilliant he is and then torture him by turning him to the thing he hates.
Right. But his bigger enemy, I would argue, is not the Doctor, but it's the followers of the Dalek Supreme who get called in by the security team. Yeah. And I mean, they call, to my understanding, the two security guys, Takis and Lilt, the two, they work for the funeral home. They start to sort of realize, hey, things are not what they should be.
They just kind of get fed up out of nowhere.
They get kind of fed up, and they're like, the place was better before, and even though they're torturing people... What?
We used to have fun here. Now it's no fun.
Right, so he's got his red Make Necros Great Again hat on. He throws that on, and he's like, we're going to call in the other Daleks, right?
Yes.
How does he have their number? Like, he...
Right.
How does he already communicate with them?
How does he know that there's another faction?
Yeah, and he calls Skaro, and Skaro immediately knows that the Davros needs to be tried. Right. So he knows it's Davros, not the Great Healer. Like, he's able to say, like, if you just called Skaro, like, call from Necros to Skaro, do you accept the charges? And then they say yes. If he just said, like, hey, there's a guy, the Great Healer here...
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I guess he would say that we have Daleks, so there's some of
maybe
your
they would have
people
assumed,
are here.
Right. Yeah.
But if the Daleks are bad, how does he know about their history?
Right.
That they would be the ally you would need. I don't know. It's like a weird
Right. So there's several
thing.
levels there of like, okay, so I guess everyone knows what the Daleks are, and then I guess everyone knows that there's an internal struggle between factions of Daleks, and I guess everyone knows how to get in touch with Skaro. Like, that's the logical leap you'd have to make.
I think maybe I'm missing a big part of the story. So,
okay.
This guy, Takis, at one point talks to Sexy Siri, right? Yeah. And he's like, who's coming? Sexy. And they talk about the presidentship.
Yes.
And then there's another ship.
Oh, there's an unscheduled
freighter. So that's the Daleks.
That must be. But
so the Daleks are already coming anyway.
Maybe that's what happened.
And then he talks to them and says, help us. Maybe that's it.
Right. Maybe that is it.
And I just didn't connect the two.
I forgot about that scene. I didn't forget about Sexy Siri because that breathy voice you can't get out of your head or your heart.
But I don't remember
right, there was that
the
freighter,
scene.
but he didn't seem surprised by it, except he didn't know what it was on the screen. So
and he kind of smiles, and he's like, okay,
oh,
thanks. Yeah.
Maybe this can be used. Okay, so maybe he just got in touch with that freighter, and it was Daleks, and then he explained it there. Hopefully that's the way it happened.
Do we see the scene with him literally having that conversation, or is it just implied?
It's on the DVD. It's about a 30-minute scene. A lot of wrong numbers. No, I don't know. No, I don't think we ever see it.
Because it felt a little bit like all of a sudden the other faction of Daleks were showing up.
Happens. Yeah.
And now I think I figured out what that was.
We haven't talked about a couple. Okay, so we really haven't talked about some of the other major characters in the story. Those being, and how we can go at this however you want to, but we've got
the fast food empire lady.
We've got Orsini and Bostock. We've got fast food empire lady Kara and her assistant Vogel, and we also have the DJ, which we should talk about. So, which would you like to talk about, Eric?
Well, I would say there's a lot of pairs, right? So
Yes.
it's like you have Kara and Vogel, you've got Orsini and Bostock, you've got Takis
Grigory
and
and
Lilt,
Natasha.
you've got Jobel and the mousy lady. And obviously the doctor, and so a lot of pairings. But
Except
I will
for the
say
poor DJ.
I really like the fast food empire lady, goth queen, and how cold she was, and the fact that she was a villain while also not being a villain. Like, she's trying to kill Davros, and she hires.
Well, she's a villain. She's just like enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah,
type,
for
type
her
of
own
villain.
means completely. She's going to kill the assassin.
Yes.
She's going to control the food, so she's not going to stop the empire. I mean, she's still going to be selling, what they're selling food, selling the dead back to the living. So I liked her. I thought she was cool, a cool character and very cold. And the fact that this guy was doting on her, I believe I mentioned the Veep comparison. It felt very much.
It does
like,
feel a little bit like that.
Yeah.
I at first didn't like her performance because I thought it was very arch and over the top. But then you see scenes where, it's just her and her assistant, and it's much more real. So you can see like that's very put on. So I actually ended up liking her performance more than I expected to at the beginning. But I thought that was very interesting. The whole thing with selling the dead as food in order to fund the project to make more Daleks, I think is very dark and interesting and kind of gross and cool. But we didn't need this whole set of characters. Davros could have just been doing this.
Yes, you could have gotten rid of a lot of the subplots, including the president and the president's wife.
Yeah,
you didn't need
maybe it helps.
any of that. You didn't need the drunk doctor that's going in with Natasha. You didn't need Natasha.
Right.
So, like, you have all of these little elements that, to me, make the story more richer. Like, I kind of like. Again, I'm still a little bit more positive on this, and you're more negative.
I mean, these things were fine. It just, it's not that it wasn't. I think you're right that it does make the story richer. It gives it more things happen. We get to see these things from different points of view, so that's great. It just doesn't feel like in some of these cases there was a lot of payoff to them, so it didn't really tie together. Like, we have the pairing of Natasha and Grigory looking for her father, and then the reveal of the father in the glass Dalek and that interaction with him, like we mentioned, I thought was actually effective. But then it doesn't go anywhere because they just die trying to blow up the lab, but it's not even the real lab, so they die for no reason.
Yes, if you had removed them and had the Doctor and Perry in their place discovering this,
or
it would have been.
No, that would be cool.
Better.
Or you could have had it be the two caretaker guys, Takis and Lilt, because they didn't know that the whole thing was to create Daleks. They thought they were running a funeral home.
Yes, everybody.
So if they had discovered that, oh my god, this is what's happening, that would have given them a reason to change to have a moral reckoning and come onto the good side.
No,
but they
agree.
didn't.
I think that would have been a little bit better. And also, they're not aware of the Dalek program, nor is Kara and her fast food empire. I mean, they know Daleks are there. They know that, that people are being turned into food, I believe. But
Kara
they do
does.
not. Kara does.
But I don't think.
But
that
they do
Takis
not
and Lilt
know
do.
about the Dalek program. That's a secret that only
right. So
Davros
if there's
is aware
the two secrets of the food protein supply and the Daleks, it seemed like Takis and Lilt knew none of that, and Kara only knew about the food part of it. And then obviously Davros had his elaborate plan over all of it.
Yeah.
It was just interesting. I mean, it was fine. I liked, so we talk about Orsini and Bostock.
Yeah, I loved him. I loved his read on it, because like those lines could have been read any other way, and he could have been a tougher, like more like gruff space assassin, but the very gentlemanly and very...
He's a knight, kind of, right?
What is it?
He's basically a knight. Because
it's like a
sword,
knight
but this is my sword. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly.
That was interesting. So there's
He's
a lot
trying
more
to get his honor
story
back.
there. There's a backstory they don't really explain that he's in this order, but it's interesting enough that it's compelling, but they don't tell you enough about it, which is good. It's just
and
kind
it's
of like
famous
hints at
enough
these
that the
things.
Doctor is aware of it.
Right.
When the Doctor he pretty much just beats the Doctor up. And he's like, what a fool I was to attack whatever the order of the slow talkers or whatever. I don't know what his his thing is. But I just liked how that actor took that role and just did it very sort of calm.
Yes.
You know, everything's very sort of laid back, but he's super sinister and he'll kill you in a second.
Right.
And I thought that was a good read on that.
And I think his lapdog, stinky guy, what's his name again? Bostock.
Oh, he was an interesting character.
He was an interesting character too, and the fact that they had this relationship where Bostock's instincts were never wrong. And the one time they were wrong, that one time that Orsini didn't listen to him, he lost his leg. We didn't talk about the fact they had a prosthetic leg.
He gets his leg shot off.
It gets shot
leg
off.
Gets shot off, and Davros' hand gets shot off. So there's two limbs
limbs akimbo. His leg gets shot off, and then when Bostock dies, and everyone has left the room, and Orsini's left behind, is going to blow up the communicator that's a bomb. He's pulling Bostock towards the control panel, and he's like has his stump leg wrapped around him and
he's
pulling
his hair too.
It was really, really weird. Yes, and he rubs his head as he blows up the bomb.
The old dog.
I loved their interactions, and he had this respect and communication with the doctor where he's indicating with winks and nods, like I'm going to grab this thing, get his attention.
Yeah, and the doctor's
that
taking
interplay
the gun
was very
to him
good
and all that stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. So
it's sort of. I enjoyed that too, but it sort of makes the Davros look like a big chump. I mean,
it's what
Davros is literally in this room, and what's his name? Orsini? What's the? He's like got his knife out, like he's like showing his knife off to the doctor, and the doctor's waiting. Like, and Davros is unaware of this. Davros doesn't disarm him after he kills the fast food empire woman.
Yeah.
Like he's just he gives him a bomb.
Right,
and he's like, maybe at that point he doesn't know what it is, but then she says what it is.
Right.
And the Davros doesn't make one of his flunkies take the bomb away. Like, it's just sort of weird. Like, he just lets this guy sit here as his prisoner with a bomb, a knife, and who's also like this crazy assassin. So it was come on, man. Like, get your house in order.
One thing we do see with Davros, which I think is the first time, was his floating chair. His chair is like up on rockets flying above. The effect was so bad because he's right above the injured Orsini laying on the ground, and the way that the superimposition works, it like cuts through. It looked terrible. Yeah. So they have the thing that that Davros' chair can fly, and yet in the rest of the scenes, he's still doing his little sit-down scuttle, moving the chair around. It just looks so ridiculous. It looks like it's like spinning out of control as he goes out of the room. I just want to...
Poor Davros. And then when the other Daleks arrive, and he's just this helpless little child, it's like, no, take him! He's the problem!
Right.
And the whole plan at the end, the guy's going to suicide himself, and he is going to get his honor back by killing Davros.
Right,
but they don't kill Davros. Davros gets away. Everybody gets away.
Blow up everything else. They blow up all the labs and all.
That's the one point they say he did something even better than kill Davros. He destroyed the labs, but Davros will build another lab.
It's a nice consolation, but he didn't really.
At least it wasn't a complete waste.
Yeah. So they were interesting. I guess we didn't talk about the DJ.
No, we did a little bit. I can't remember if we did or not, to be honest with you. I liked him because I'm a Young Ones fan, and that is Alexei Sale or Sala, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, who's from the Young Ones. So as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, I expected him to act the way that he acted, because he did a lot of those like goofy characters that are supposed to be corny, and that's sort of the joke, is that he's doing it and then he's changing his voice tempo all the time, and he'll do something like that and then he'll say something under his breath, like, whatever, and that's sort of his shtick. So for me, I had buy-in on him because I like him as a comedian. Right,
you had goodwill, yeah.
And I can definitely understand why you would find it sort of annoying and corny.
Well, yes, and I understood that. Well, I didn't know what was going on at first. I had no idea why. I still don't know why there's a DJ. Like, they explain that it's part of the package.
Yeah,
and
I like the fact that they had the DJ. So it's like an upsell that while you're in suspended animation, he is going to tell you about the news of the day. So you're sort of. I kind of thought that was
kind of cool. Totally fine. But why they had to have him dressing up as a 60s guy? I don't even know what time period this is exactly. but dressed up as someone from the 1960s hippie DJ, and he keeps going backwards, and it's like the 1950s
and then he's in the
jazz
50s.
guy. And
that doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's Greaser, then he goes back to like the big band guy. Anyway, they're doing that. That's fine. And I get that it was very tongue-in-cheek and over the top on purpose, because the moments when he does the whole shtick and then he's talking to the rest of the people and he's kind of like commenting on it in a meta way, that I get it, and I just didn't like it. I just didn't think it was very fun or interesting. And that Perry loved it, made it seem like, oh, this is actually not supposed to be tongue-in-cheek, that it's actually supposed to be good because she thought it was so interesting. It just totally didn't work for me. Fine. I did, however, like at the end that when Perry goes to him, he's going to try to protect her and sacrifice himself for her. And like you said, then destroys Daleks with Sonic
rock and roll.
Yeah.
But to keep talking with the
Please do.
DJ 60s, 70s thing, or 60s, 50s thing.
Yeah.
All of that was sort of to tie to Perry, right? Because she has this scene where she feels homesick and she misses America. She's hoping he's American, and she's sort of sad when she finds out it's a voice. And there's this back and forth, and I kept thinking, oh, they're going to reveal that the Earth is destroyed, or there is no Earth, because he's like
so too.
Laughing like, you're from Earth, he can't. He thinks she's joking because this whole culture is dead, but they never say that. It never goes anywhere that I picked up on anyway. It was just like a weird scene that I thought was going to go maybe in a different direction or have a payoff, but it didn't
seem so.
Didn't.
Yeah. I think we covered all of the things
we
twice
did.
now.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know if there was more I covered the first time that I think that I've talked about that I didn't. It probably wasn't worth it.
No, I think we hit all. I think we hit all the main points. We're fine. So we want to wrap up here and get some feedback from our listeners.
Did I talk about how many people manhandle Perry?
I think I talked
twice
about
now.
That you did mention
this time.
Both times. Sorry. Oh,
we talked about the dumb plan of the Davros several times.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Cool.
America doesn't have a monopoly on bad taste. I thought was a funny line.
That was a good line. Yeah. Okay. So fantastic. We got.
What did people think? I mean, where do they stand? Whereas we just talked at length about where we stand.
Yeah, we got a bunch of feedback both on Twitter and emails. So let's check out the emails first. Mike F writes to us. Looks like your next episode is Revelation of the Daleks. I have a lot to say about this episode, but I'll try to keep it short to improve its likelihood of being read on your podcast. Dude, you write it, we'll read it.
But keep it short.
but keep it brief. I'm sorry.
No, but seriously, keep it short.
No, keep it real short. The most striking feature of the story is how much of it is totally inappropriate for a show ostensibly intended to be family-friendly. Among other things, the story features double entendre that could be more accurately described as a single entendre. The Doctor and Perry body-shaming each other, yes. Mortuary employees body-shaming each other, true. Disturbing scene depicting patricide. I thought that was an effective scene, though. Well, you think we both said that?
I like that.
But that was hard.
Yeah.
I imagine for a kid that's pretty disturbing. Disturbingly hostile work environment at a mortuary that includes cruel romantic rebuffs, overt sexual harassment, and murder with embalming fluid. Yep.
Yeah, and that's
OSHA
a straight up murder, like for a kid show. And they show it. I mean, they show her stab, and then you see it sticking out of his heart area or whatever, and it's like pretty violent.
Well, there's this waterboarding and torture, and there's a lot.
It's pretty rough.
Needless to say, 8-year-old me thought this episode was awesome, and I still like it. Colin Baker gets a bad rap, including from you guys, but I won't hold it against you. I don't think we said anything that indicates we have feelings about Colin Baker.
No, I just said what was true.
He's probably the best. The biggest problem with this episode is the really lame cliffhanger at the end of the story that doesn't even get resolved in the next story. If I remember correctly, 4 out of 5 stars. We forgot to mention that.
The cliffhanger is the falling monument, right?
No. The story cliffhanger. The end of the story.
Oh, where they're going.
Says we're going to, yes, they're going to go to, and then it's a freeze frame. And then, I mean, everyone that's listened to this already knows this, but I wasn't aware that the show had a possibility of not coming back. So they were leaving that open. It was supposed to be going to Blackpool, but
is this Trial of the Time Lord that is the next episode or next story?
Ooh, what is the next story? We're so out of order. It's hard for me to remember where we are.
I mean, that's the last season. Is Trial of the Time
Mysterious
Lord,
Planet. Oh yeah. So So that was interesting that they kind of left it like that, and I guess they called it 18-month hiatus, but then they kind of bring it back onto a regular fall schedule after that. So, yeah, that was kind of weird that when I saw that, I was like, why did they not tell us where it was coming from?
Yeah, it was a little odd.
Yeah, but it's fine. Okay, thanks, Mike, for all of that. I think we agree with you, except for your horrible opinion that Colin Baker doesn't get a bad rap. Okay, so Tim B. writes to us, Revenge to the D. Interesting. Can't wait to hear what you fellas thought about Revelation of the Daleks. It's one of the few classic Who I hadn't seen till now, so thanks for forcing me to watch it. You're welcome. Part 1. I enjoyed everything about it except the DJ. All right, the Doctor and Perry. So everything except for the DJ and the 2 main characters. Cool. Loved all the other characters. Question, is that dude turning into a Dalek the grossest body horror you have ever seen on Who?
Yeah, that's up there. I mean, that was pretty vile.
I think of any other really gross ones, but I thought it was, like I said, I thought it was really effective too. It looked really gross, but yeah, maybe it was the worst. He says that seemed really intense. Didn't look
like
lame like the typical
the Fly, Cronenberg's Fly movie with.
It's not Cronenberg level body horror that creeps me out and makes me really uncomfortable, but it was pretty close. He says this was pretty nasty. Part 2, enjoyed the whole thing and all the characters, including the Doctor, DJ, and Perry.
Okay.
So they all got redeemed in the end. I guess I kind of said the same thing about the DJ. I liked him towards the end. And the Doctor and Perry having to interact with other people besides just each other does make each of them better. So that's fine. Loved the high body count. Clearly we're going for a more adult violence with torture and killings, not to mention that weird old dude perving up on Perry. Do you guys think they went too far? Hard to call this story a kid's show. Eric, what do you think? Did they go overboard with the
with the
adult nature of the murders?
Stuff?
Well, that too. Yeah, all of the above. Was it too much for a kid's show?
I don't know, man.
You're a guy that has kids.
I mean, they always say it's a kid show, but
it's only
maybe a little bit too like you didn't need to see, like you could have did the stab down or whatever and not see it sticking out. But like the body horror stuff, I would have kept in for a kid show. The sexual violent stuff is a little weird.
It wasn't. Right? It wasn't good.
I didn't think it was.
Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't. It could have been so much worse, and it wasn't. So yeah, I mean, of the era as well. I guess I don't. Yeah,
it's fine.
Finishing up here, I still don't like 2-part 45-minute structure. I don't think it did the show any favors. With such entertaining actors and characters, I think this one would have been well served with 4 22-minute episodes instead. Even when they break it up into into 4 parts, it wasn't written that way, so there's not really good cliffhangers. And I like that structure of lead in, story, and then cliffhanger. That gives it a better rhythm. So I agree. I don't think the 45-minute structure really helps.
I really like the 3-part structure. That's my favorite. We don't always get
22-minute segments. It's that amount of time that I think works so much better, where you have a build up, a chunk in the middle, and then kind of the pace quickens at the end. Would have served this better, I think. Anyway, cool. Thank you very much for that feedback. Eric and I both agree, as always, on everything I just said. On the Twitters, there's a huge thread going back and forth, so I'm not going to read all of that, but that's so cool to see you guys interacting with each other. So I was following along with all of you. That was great, but let me just read some of the highlights to our response here.
And read quickly, because I have to leave.
Yeah, that's right. Finishing up here. Andrew Stevens on Twitter says, about this story, it ends well, but you have to sit through a bunch of not much to get there. I like Davros taking time out of his busy taking over the Galaxy day job to meddle with the office politics of a corporate undertaker operation. He's a real hands-on leader.
He does, like, meetings. Like, they have, like, meetings of just, like, how much of the, like, middle management stuff was going on and just, like...
Hey, do you guys have time to quick...
What's our next steps on the...
Let's just jump on a quick call, and if we can have action items at the end, that'd be... Okay, our friend Christoph says, recently saw Colin Baker called Warhol-esque, not grappling with the art implications. This era is cartoonishly violent for shock value only, and I've finally found the word I've been searching for. Yeah, cartoonishly violent. I mean, I guess for the time and the other material around it, it's hyper-violent, but it didn't really bother me all that much, but okay.
Yeah, I
what do you think?
Agree with you, Dan.
Yeah,
I mean, we talked about it. It's fine.
Yep. Bernard says, loved Revelation. It's just awesome material. So there are a lot of people that really rate this one very highly. I think, like we both said, it's probably rated one of the highest among the Colin Baker stories, but not in the top 10 for me. World Enough in Time podcast says, this whole episode of faffing around before the Doctor and Perry enter the plot. I will never care about Dalek factions. The subject matter is too dark for Who, massively overrated then and now. To which City of Jeff, which is a great name for a Doctor Who fan, City of Jeff, responds laughingly, one of my favorite stories from the 80s, the Davros Heavy and the best Davros at that. Terry Malloy and Colin sparkle together. Not many stories that have thinly veiled penis gags either.
Whoa, I missed a thinly veiled penis gag.
I think the penis was more veiled than I expect, because I don't know what it is.
All right, please tell us.
Everybody write in on my
was.
Twitter the penis gag, please.
I wish I would have known about the penis gag.
I'm trying to think.
I got into the podcast business for penis gags.
Penis gag. Nothing but penis gags.
Please don't.
Finishing up here. Love it. Soward's best. Other people said differently. But that's interesting.
Yeah,
Just wish he actually liked the main characters he was writing for, which is funny. So you guys go back and forth on that, and I love that. So thank you guys for keeping the conversation lively between each other. So check out that thread. Finishing up with the last of these, so we can get out of here. The Doctor Who show responds, an absolutely fantastic outing for the Sixth Doctor, probably the second best story of that season after Varos. Black humor, interesting characters.
Vengeance of Varos was very good.
Yep. Black humor, interesting characters, and a Dalek plot that does something new. I totally disagree, but okay. The Imperial Dalek color scheme looks fantastic to this day. I do like the different Dalek colors, including clear, which is great, like Pepsi Clear. For the Love of Crinoid says, there's some really unique and dark concepts here. Love it. So a lot of positivity here. And the last two tweets we have here from Victoria's Chambers says, I've recently started watching the Sixth Doctor episodes, and I actually like him just fine. At least his relationship with Perry is better than 5 and Tegan. Reminds me of 3 and Jo, with him putting his arm around her protectively. I also like the episode. And last, Mike Freiberg, who also wrote us previously, Colin Baker is to Doctor Who what Timothy Dalton was to the James Bond franchise, criminally underappreciated. The story is a solid episode, if rather family unfriendly. So thank you guys very much for responding on Twitter and for keeping the conversation going between yourselves. If you'd like to jump in there, we are on Twitter at TODW Show, which is the same as on Instagram, where you can find all of our GIFs. And we are on Facebook at facebook.com/TODWS. You can also send us emails at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com, or just visit our site, theolddoctorwhoshow.com. There you can find all of our previous episodes and see a schedule of what's coming up next, and also find the subscribe links. We are now on all of the podcast platforms, so you can find us on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or Spotify now, actually. We are on Spotify. So go and check those out and tell your friends. So I think we covered it all. Our next story then, Eric, is what? What are we doing next?
Oh, so the next one, we're back to Hartnell. This is The Edge of Destruction, I believe, is our next story, if I'm not mistaken. And also, for people that are looking for stickers, it's P.O. Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. Please send a self-addressed stamped envelope, as some of you have already.
Yep.
And I will send them out. And if you did send one, chances are it's on its way out anyway.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, guys.
Thanks
Thank you, and girls. Peace.
Folks. Bye, folks.
I think it's all right to eat other people, as long as they've been properly canned. So in the future, when we think we're eating soy, but it turns out we're actually eating people, well, I'll be okay with that, Charlton Heston. I'll be able to live with that, as long as the people are packaged in their sanitary conditions. I'm a vegetarian now, but I'm willing to make an exception in the event I'm presented with people. Because I've always been fairly standoffish, I have this tendency not to get to know people very well. And I don't think there's any better way to get to know humanity than to ingest it. Eating people, not saying I want to eat people. I've heard they taste like pork. And I've never been a big fan of pork. I'm saying, if someone's going to go through all the trouble of preparing it for me...
Where's my robot, you know?